morning and welcome to another edition of a Daybreak, on Trust TV right here in the nation's capital. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman.
It is a beautiful morning in Abuja.
Yes,
Thank
it
you
is.
for joining us. Good morning. My name is Abdulaziz Abdulaziz.
You know, it's actually quite confusing, It's like, the rains are here, but the rains aren't here. Some areas receive rains, some areas nothing at all, especially on Friday.
Yeah, that's it. Actually, it's been so, and that is the signs of early rains. Usually, it is it rains here. It skips. It rains here. There it's dry. Then it rains there. But also, as you said, the rains is like they are here and not here because. Also, of course, it's the beginning, but also this year,
Climate change.
The meteorological agency, the National Meteorological Agency, has warned that rains this year will be really erratic, and in fact, they already issued alert to farmers that they should not be
dependent
quick
on the rain.
They should not even be quick, with planting because. The rains may not stabilize early enough.
Wow.
And
Well, it's actually, when I say it's confusing, it's because, when you drive through some parts, you find out that it's dry, and then you move, and just like, a few, miles, a few meters ahead, you find heavy rain, you leave that part, a few meters ahead, no rain at all, none whatsoever.
True. That's true. A lot of people in the outskirts, of Abuja, for example, will tell you that, some of us that are looking, it rains in our places, but maybe in the city center, you find out that it doesn't, it didn't. So it's been like that. And, well, my own pity somehow, or concern, is actually for farmers and for all of us, because if the farms do not produce, if the farmers
there will be
not...
no food in circulation.
Exactly.
So, well, we hope
we
the
have to be really careful and maybe prayerful as well.
Yeah, we will. It'll definitely come, and we hope, the rain stabilize, in time for the planting season. Now, for the headlines at this hour, former President Obasanjo urges Nigerians to be firm amid security challenges.
Abductors of Abuja monarch ask family members to sell his house to raise 20 million naira ransom.
Apple Mosque suspends chief imam over sermon.
Now let's have a dive into the news highlights.
Abductors of the traditional ruler of Bukwe community in Kwali area of the Federal Capital Territory have directed family members of the monarch to sell his house in order to raise the 20 million naira ransom they're demanding. Daily Trust had reported how kidnappers invaded the palace of the monarch, His Royal Highness Alhaji Hassan Shamidozi, on Wednesday night. When Daily Trust visited the community on Sunday, a family member of the traditional ruler who preferred anonymity said the kidnappers have vowed not to release him until they get 20 million naira.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo says security challenges have overwhelmed the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. He said this while reacting to recent attacks on the Abuja-Kaduna train service, which left no fewer than 9 people dead, Obasanjo and many others missing. Obasanjo said the development has shown that Nigerians are not safe, whether in vehicles, trains, or aircraft. The former president spoke at his Ota residence while receiving a People's Democratic Party presidential aspirant, Dr. Ugochukwu Williams, and his team. The former president, who admitted that the present regime has been overwhelmed by security situation in the country, however, cautioned Nigerians not to lose hope.
Right, and finally, the Mosque Committee of Apo Legislative Quarters, Abuja, has suspended its chief imam, Sheikh Nuru Khalid, over a sermon he delivered on Friday. Sheikh Khalid, in his sermon, flayed the government over its failure to tame the escalating insecurity and killings in the country. In the sermon, the imam hinted at some measures that the electorate should devise if the authorities fail to protect their lives. In a statement, the chairman of the Mosque Committee, Senator Saeed Rudan Sadao, said the committee suspended the embattled imam over his sermon that it deemed to incite public outrage. The committee maintained that Sheikh Khaled's sermon negated the tenets of Islam. The committee has immediately appointed Malam Muhammad, who will deliver Ramadan tafsir, while Malam Abdullahi will be leading Friday prayers. But speaking on Sunday, the Sheikh said he was unperturbed, adding that he learned about his suspension in the media. He vowed to continue speaking the truth and challenged those who perceived his sermon as inciting to show evidence. And with that,
Nigeria is facing a very serious challenge. Everything is not working well. People are dying. Our roads are not secure. Most of the parts of the country is not secure. And the government is always telling us what we don't understand, that they are doing their best. And we deserve more than that, their best. That's what I always say. Yes, you said you are doing your best, but we as citizens are saying that we deserve more than that, your best, because we want a secured Nigeria. And what you are now telling us that your concern is all about 2023 election. And what I'm advising the citizens to do is to send a message that yes, we are going to vote in 2023, but under condition that there must be security in Nigeria.
and with that, we'll go on a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. The widespread and persistent crude oil theft and pipeline vandalism in the Niger Delta has led to serious revenue deficit for the Nigerian government and also exposed the dysfunction and institutional weakness in the country. In this special report, Trust TV takes a look at the implication of this twin effect on the economy and the way forward. The report.
According to statistics presented at a meeting in Abuja between the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Oil Producers Trade Sector, and the Independent Petroleum Producers Group, the country lost $3.2 billion to crude oil theft between January 2021 and February 2022. A professor of economy at the Rivers State University, Port Harcourt, Ayodele Mahamadou, identified oil theft as part of failure of government, adding that crude oil theft strive due to collusion among security officials, the communities, political leaders, and criminal elements.
Nigeria, as a country, operates as though it doesn't have citizens. Nobody is taking ownership of the country. if people take ownership of the country, they will protect the country. There is a disconnect between Nigeria as a nation and the citizens.
On his part, a security expert, Colonel Chinedu Ohunda, says the capacity of security agencies should be improved to manage involvement of host communities in the menace. He says scrutinization of oil pipeline is yet to be fully embedded into the security architecture of Nigeria.
All hands must be on deck to fight this obnoxious creature that we have created for ourselves. Because right from the local government, the state, and the federal government, they are all involved.
The stealing of crude oil illegal refinery in Rivers State is responsible for increased cases of SARS in the state. Governor Wike says he is determined to fight illegal bunkering due to its dangers to residents of the state.
I have declared this fight as a war against terrorism. I will treat them more than Boko crime. Because they are stealing our economy and killing our people. They are not only stealing the oil. By the way you are doing, our people are cancer, all kinds of sicknesses.
Acting Force Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Police, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, assures that the police will not tolerate any personnel aiding criminal activities, such as economic sabotage.
We will not cover any of our men, officers or men of the police who are found wanting one way or the other.
In January 2017, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, embarked on a tour of the Niger Delta region. During the visit, which was to appreciate the ecological challenges facing the oil-rich but underdeveloped region, Professor Osibanjo sued for the integration of arsenals and modular refineries into the oil and gas sector.
We're very confident that the integration of artisanal and modular refinery operations into the oil and gas sector will not only promote the inclusion of more local content in the industry, it will advance the use of homegrown technology in the refining of petroleum products.
The special advisor to the Presidential and Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Etta Enang, suggested at the gathering that government should regularize modular and artisanal refinery to boost the economy.
These refined products are going into our generators, going into our systems, and we still call it illegal refining. But they are driving our cars, we still call it illegal refining. That people are feeding from it, we still call it illegal artisanal refining.
Most of the diesel we use in this country today is from Bofire. It didn't start today. Even before government said the Bofire has been, whether it's Bofire, I don't really know whether it's Bo or Bo, they call it. It's been on for a very long time.
Economy expert wants the federal government to urgently acquire technology that can monitor oil and gas pipelines across the country to prevent sabotage of oil installation.
Looking at the whole pollution, that this particular, oil theft is actually causing, one can, only imagine how long it will actually take for this to actually clear up.
Yeah, it is a very serious problem, and even beyond the pollution is one thing. There are so many problems. Of course, the pollution, because it has a more widespread health and environmental effects on the people, on the communities, and a lot of them, they can't even fish, they can't farm,
they can't do anything. They don't even have access to potable water.
Exactly. Because look at the organic cleanup that the federal government has been
How far has that gone, by the way?
I don't even know, because that's been a long time since the former Minister of Environment, Amina Mohammed, who is now the Deputy Secretary of the United Nations. The government has announced the flag up of that project, but actually I don't know where we are now. I know that at the point there are some feed dragging and all that, then it took off. But that shows you that it takes a little time to do a damage, but it takes a long time to correct it.
So do you think some of these illegal refineries should be legalized for more output?
Well, actually, I don't think so, because, once you give a little opportunity, more will spring up.
Definitely.
And for me, the most wide-ranging or more disturbing trend or implication of this practice for the larger country is also the oil theft issue. And I know that recently there were a lot of statistics flying around and concerns, including from CBN governor, some oil industry experts, with one of them saying 95% of Nigerian oil is being stolen. And that is quite alarming, especially now that you know, the oil price is high up, and the country is
as well.
Exactly, and the country is facing so many challenges that we need the money to solve.
Definitely.
It's really quite a serious challenge.
Well, we seriously hope that, you know, something is done about this, you know, in time. All right, so taking a look at historical events in history today. Today is the 4th of April, 2022, and today is International Day of Mine Awareness. And, you know, every year on this day, Day for Mine Awareness and Assistance in Mine Action, it is observed to spread awareness about the threat caused by landmines to the safety, health and lives of civilian populations, and encourages state governments to develop mine clearing programs. You know, this is still part of the, you know, land pollution that we're actually talking about.
Yeah, also, you know, especially the issue of mines in terms of security is also a serious problem because just like what happened in Kaduna, you know, it was landmines that was used to blow up the train. You know, with increase in terrorist activities all over the world, you know, Nigeria is receiving its own share of that. I think it's important that this awareness is created. And for me personally, I remember last year I traveled to a village in Zamfara State where some 7 children were killed by a landmine that was used to, you know, against terrorists, which later blew up some innocent kids.
It's quite sad.
Yeah, it is. So let's have a look at the events in history today.
All right, more events that happened today in history. In 2013, 39 people are killed at a funeral in Wukari in Nigeria. That's in Taraba State. In 2022, after 27 years of fighting, the Angolan government and UNITA signed a ceasefire agreement that ended the country's civil war. In 1959, in West Africa, the Mali Federation, a short-lived union between the autonomous territories of the Sudanese Republic and Senegal, led by Leopold Senghor, came into being. In 1975, Bill Gates and Paul Allen established Microsoft. And for those of you who don't know, Microsoft has developed into a multinational corporation, and it is the world's largest software market by revenue. Now, I don't, do people still use Microsoft? Or are there more, you know,
okay, you mean, you know, Microsoft, as you said, is in terms of software, because of the Microsoft Office, Microsoft
Word,
yes,
everything.
Yeah, so many things.
So many templates.
The programs, and you know, so it has developed into a big company that is almost inevitable, you know, for many gadget users. Of course, there are, you know, Apple is giving it very serious competition with iOS and all that. But, you know, like the Office, a lot of people, even if they are using Apple product, they still use the Microsoft Office in some ways. So is one.
But you know, it's so big that, you know, Bill Gates now focuses more on charity than.
Exactly. Well, you know, that's the beauty of setting up a business and setting it up properly. So you can afford
Watching
to do
it
other
grow
things
by itself.
exactly while you pursue your pastime and the business continues.
Okay, now more on the events. In 1969, Denton Cooley implants the first artificial heart. You know, this actually paved way for more, you know, heart transplants. And that's actually the machine kept patient. The patient's name is Haskell Karp, alive for 65 hours. But unfortunately, he died before a human heart could become available. So, you know, this, like I said, you know, people learn from mistakes.
Exactly.
So this actually didn't work. I would say it was actually a success, since the person actually lived for 65 hours, you know, before he died.
dies.
You know, right now, if you go to the hospital, you know, heart transplants, you know, are very
so common,
easy.
yeah. You know, that is it. All perfections begin with trials, and then with mistakes, and then you pick up and progress. You know, almost all scientific inventions started like that. And yeah, it's good that the pioneers were courageous to start, and then we take up from there.
All right, now in 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. is assassinated. That's a civil rights activist, a segregationist who received a 99-year prison sentence, and he died in jail in 1998. In 1949, NATO is formed. So 12 nations signed the North Atlantic Treaty to establish what is today one of the world's most important military alliances.
Leading to the war in Ukraine. You know,
I wasn't going to say that at all. I wasn't going to say that.
It's been a very controversial organization, from one country to another, and now the latest being the Ukraine.
But would you
Russia.
actually say NATO is responsible? Because I know Russia has actually had its sights on Ukraine for a really, really long time.
Well, a lot of people say that, which is not quite far from the truth, but you also can't remove NATO from the equation. So the fact that all the thing is now hinged on the issue of NATO, whether to join or not to join.
Okay. All right, we'll take a quick breather, and when we come back, we'll take a look at what the papers are saying.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
All right, let's start with a Daily Trust today, the 4th of April, 2022. And, you know, the paper today is quite, you know, heavy. It's 56 pages. Now, we have the lead story here that says how NRC ignored warnings on planned attack on Abuja-Kaduna train. Writers here says leaked letters reveal alerts to railway months ahead. Repeated intelligence reports show attack coming. MD admits receiving letter, says suspension not the solution. And this particular story was written by, you know, our very own Abdulaziz. And just, you know, briefly in 1 minute, just tell us about this this particular story and why it's the lead.
Well, you know, it's like a follow-up to a story done by Daily Trust, published on Thursday, which reveals that there was indeed information saying that this attack was imminent, that there are plans to launch attack on these train services. And then, of course, nothing was done to avert it. And so this today's lead story is taking a step ahead and giving some more details, specific details about how since November last year, there were warnings, especially to the Nigeria Railway Corporation, to suspend the evening train rides because it is susceptibility to, you know, it was prone to attacks. And of course, evidently, the warning was not heeded to, leading to the very unfortunate incident of March 28th, which, you know, is a lot of us are still mourning because, as we said in the, we read during the news brief, a lot of families are grieving, loved ones that are
Definitely.
either killed or are with the
some are
abductors.
still abducted.
Exactly.
All right. We'll move on to more of the stories on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. We have 12 people, 19 cattle killed in Plateau attacks. Details of that on page 4. How PRP will produce Buhari's successor, says Falalu Bello. Police gun down 3 kidnappers, rescue victims in Kano Forest. And right beside these stories, we have a pictorial of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo exchanging pleasantries with Lady Christine Dojau Tedola during her 90th birthday and church dedication of St. Peter's Catholic Church built by Harry Negbe, Lagos, yesterday. And we also have on the footnote there, ACF, Afenifere reply El Rufai warns against use of mercenaries. If you come to the top of the page, you have Nigeria targets 12.4 trillion naira from non-oil commodities, says NEPC. RCCG says Adeboye denies mobilizing for Osinbajo any presidential aspirant. Now, these are some of the stories on Daily Trust newspaper.
Up next is the leadership newspapers. And the lead story for leadership this morning says, rising insecurity, hiring mercenaries not an option. Our troops are capable. CSOs. That is some civil society organizations lending a voice on the debates about whether to hire foreign mercenaries or not in the fight against insecurity. And some of the writers to this big story say, ask FG to change security tactics. Recall our ex-servicemen, says Khan. Calls for mercenaries worrisome, Afenifere. Ohaneze AYCF back call says it is long overdue. ACF Northern Coalition caution against making political capital out of the crisis. These are all parts of the lead story in today's leadership. Up there, there is a business story that says Nigerian ports lose 5.4 trillion in 5 years to absence of single window. It's a story which starts on the front page and continues on page 7. On the right sidebar of the paper, ECOWAS court nullifies Section 24 of Nigeria's Cybercrime Act. And this is one act that a lot of people complain that it hinges on, it infringes on people's rights. And for details of what the section that was abolished by the ECOWAS court is all about, we can read the leadership newspaper. The story is on page 8. Next, second Niger bridge. FG commends NSIA, Julius Berger on quality of work. This is on page 6. And then 2 students develop technology to check rail vandalization. This is a story also on page 8 of the leadership. At the top of the leadership front page, Hush Puppy, U.S. court fixes October 11 for Abba Kyari's trial. A story on page 6. Then government kill 10 in Plateau. ISWAP execute 4 fishermen in Borno on page 6 of today's leadership. On a sad note, on the front page of this paper is the announcement or the death being reported of the mother of founder of Leadership Newspapers Group, Mr. Sam Nda Isaiah, that is Eunice Ndanusa Isaiah, who died over the weekend. And the story here says PMB mourns Leadership founder's mother. The story is on page 7.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the next paper, which is Blueprint newspaper. And the lead story here says, with 11 months to 2023 polls, APC will clear cloudly atmosphere to victory, says Adamu. And we have writers that says, I've never captained a failed ship. Promises party will move against anything that can cause failure, and there's no way we can stop this electoral process because of security challenges. Details of that particular story on page 6. We also have at the top of that page, train attack, 170 passengers safe, 21 still missing, 7 coaches recovered, says NRC. And we have some riders. 25 Kebbi captives held after 10 million naira ransom. Wage total war against terrorists, ACF tells federal government. If you come down, you'd see second Niger bridge. FG releases 157 billion naira, says project ready August. And we also have some pictorials there. We have one of the non-executive director, Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, Kabir Oniyangi, Minister of Budget, Finance and National Planning, Zainab S. Ahmed, during a recent inspection of the second Niger Bridge project linking Asaba to Onitsha in Delta and Anambra states, respectively. And we also have a picture of Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba Ali, with some senior police officers during the IGP's visit to some of the Monday night's attack by bandits in Abuja-Kaduna train at Rijana. All right, below that pictorial, we have Dangote fertilizer to train over 1 million farmers in 3 years. Details of that on page 26. We also have our projects in 35 African countries gulped $10 billion, says AFC. Oshun monarch to subjects. Fear of Fulani herders forced me out of town. On page 23, voting. We are shortchanged, says NAS Southeast Caucus. Nigeria's position in Africa under threat as oil production crashes. We also have unity of the country supersedes zoning, says Saraki. And details of that on page 23. These are some of the stories on the front page of Blueprint newspaper.
We move on to the Nation newspaper. And on the front page of the Nations today, ACF to federal government wage total war on terrorists, bandits. The story has two riders. One says, Forum opposes use of mercenaries. Government intensify killings, arson in Anambra, Imo. To the right, 13% diversion, RMAFC, that is Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, shuts out Lagos, OK's Anambra, Kogi. On the top of the Nation today, PDP governors twisted facts on Buhari's government, says presidency. The story on page 3. Diesel crisis may shut down economy, says Man Nasima. That is, this is the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and Nigerian Chamber of Commerce talking about the crisis in the energy sector. To the right of that story, 400 houses in the resettlement cities near completion on page 26. And another story there says, Bola Igemada Omishore replies Professor Shoyinka. This is a story on page 6 of the paper and following from the statement by Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka at the weekend, in which he was lambasting the appointment or condemning the appointment of or the emergence of Chief Iola Omishore as the National Secretary of the ruling party, APC, saying that that somehow forecloses investigation into the murder of Bola Ige. So now Omishore is responding to that. Still on the Nation, at the very center of the page is a pictorial of Vice President Yemi Oshibanjo exchanging pleasantries with Lady Christian Dola Oitola during her 90th birthday and dedication of a church in Epe, Lagos. Just below that, another story says, INEC unveils plan for Ekiti Oshun polls. Senator Oshomole in battle for slots. So it seems that Adams Oshomole, the former national chairman of the APC, may be going to the Senate. These and many other stories will be found in today's The Nation newspaper.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the Punch newspaper. And we have a lead story that says PDP backs Obasanjo Adeboye's fears over killings 2023 elections. We have some writers that says Buhari government overwhelmed. Nigerians no longer safe on roads, train, airport, says ex-president. I'm not sure if 2023 elections will hold, says RCCG General Overseer, laments crude oil theft. Obasanjo Adeboye stating the obvious, Northwest governors organizing dubious amnesty, alleges PDP. And you can find the details of that story on page 2. The pictorial there that's a pictorial of Islamic devotees during the break of fast at a free food distribution point on the first day of the holy fasting month of Ramadan in Karachi, Pakistan on Sunday. All right, if you go to the top of the page, you see a story that talks about PenCom to fine PFAs over pensioners' delayed payment, others. Details on page 34. 2 million people start receiving 20 billion naira monthly from June, says federal government. Federal government grants 3-year tax relief to 33 companies, bars 10 firms. PDP politicians stole soldiers' salaries during tenure, says presidency. That is quite an accusation. All right, right below the, beside the nameplates, we have mercenaries call. Avoid fire brigade approach, hire volunteers and hunters, says ACF. We also have NDLEA, Customs seizes 9.5 million tramadol, 5 billion naira narcotics. If you come to the bottom of the page, gunmen kill 10, injure 19 in Plateau festival attack. CSOs tackle Emefiele over alleged involvement in politics. Gunmen storm Ogun Mosque, abducts policeman. 2 others demand 15 million naira. And we also have Makinde threatens lawsuit over 998 million naira contract inflation allegation. Details on page 8. Pastor's baby killed as wife, female members fight over alleged affair with cleric. Wow, really sad one there. And Sound. Family opposes Gandhi, alleges AFDB director excluded, demands fresh selections. These are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper.
Thank you, Usena. Now we move on to the Daily Times. On the front page, there is a lavish pictorial first, which attracts my attention. It says Vice President Osuwenjo celebrating with evangelist Ebenezer Obi Fabi, Juju Mistro, Sashina Peter, and King Sonny Ade at the 80th birthday Thanksgiving of Fabi in Lagos on Sunday. This is an event of the weekend because a lot of people have already poured in encomiums for the music icon as he turned 80. Just below the pictorial, the major headline of Daily Times says, Insecurity, Buhari government overwhelmed. Obasanjo laments that Nigerians traveling no longer safe on the road, in the train, at the airport. On the top of the page of Daily Times, it says, Presidency rejects PDP fantasy communique. Says Buhari striving to fix mess from opposition parties' misrule. That's the long-standing back and forth between the opposition PDP and the ruling APC continuing on that note. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Daily Times of this morning.
All right, we'll take the final paper, which is Nigerian News Direct. And the lead story talks about traffic hike, multi-choice dares federal government, tribunal's judgment, Senate. And the writer says begins implementation of 15% price hike on DSTV, GoTV subscriptions, and details of that on page 2. This particular story has gotten a lot of Nigerians' attention, and
it's something that affects almost everybody.
Yes, yes. And Nigerians are actually complaining because most of the programming are repeated and they pay so much already. So why hike the price? And now we're seeing that, multi-choice, have no, they're not ready. They're not ready to even
comply
reduce
with
or
that.
comply.
Yes, the multi-choice thing is something that, as you said, it attracts a lot of attention. And more importantly is the fact that a lot of people have been clamoring for a pay-as-you-go alternative option, so that people who travel, who stay at home only for a few hours, will not be charged
as much as
those who like
hours.
exactly on the television, and which is a practice in many countries. But interestingly, the MultiChoice has been resistant on this option.
But they're making so much money from that, so it's going to be a
but
very
of course,
difficult
also
change.
business peculiarities, as they say, who has the shoe is the person who knows where it pinches.
It hurts,
so,
yeah. Okay. All right, we'll move on. Right below the pictorial there, you'd see a story that says terrorism, no unregistered SIM cards on operators network. Telcos insist. Okay. More stories. Police intercept bus load of illicit drugs in Lagos, reject 500,000 naira bribe. That is a plus for the police there. OPEC target Nigeria's 100,000 barrels output drops in March. We also have on train attack. NRC confirms 14 more passengers safe. If you go to the top of the page, you'd see a story on Dangote fertilizer to train over 1 million farmers in 3 years. NDLEA seizes 5 billion naira worth of tramadol in 3 states. And, these are some of the stories on the Nigerian News Direct. Yes. And with this particular story, yes, we'll take a quick break. But do not forget that we will have more detailed review in the next hour. We'll be joined by, the Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust. That's Suleiman. But for now, let's take a quick breather.
Welcome back. A member of the House of Representatives, Ahmadu Jaha, has said that insecurity has become a cash cow in Nigeria. Jaha, a member of the All Progressives Congress, APC, spoke on the floor of the lower legislative chamber on Thursday. He was contributing to a motion sponsored by Shehu Balarabe, a lawmaker from Kaduna State, on the killings in the state. Jaha said despite the huge funds allocated to Nigerian army, insecurity in the country has continued unabated. Take a look.
Only 16 billion for capital expenditure. The remaining 406 billion were for recurrent expenditure. In addition to this, there was 100 billion naira allocated for Operation Lafia Doli. In 2021, we budgeted 460 billion for Nigerian army alone. Only 29 billion was for capital expenditure. The remaining were for recurrent expenditure. In 2022, we budgeted 571 billion for Nigerian army alone. Only 37 billion is for capital expenditure. The remaining were recurrent expenditure. Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is security in Nigeria has become a cash cow business. I am not willing to go without taking my own, and he is not willing to go without taking his own, and the other person is not willing to leave until when he got his own turn. Mr. Speaker, it's a cash cow business. They don't want it to finish because they will realize that everybody's attention was diverted towards Northeast. Okay, let them relieve Northeast to some extent and move to Northwest. After Northwest, they move to Southwest. Before you realize what is happening, the whole country is gutted with security challenges. Another thing, somebody brought the issue of National Security Advisor. We are making one mistake in making appointment, particularly in security architect. One, there is no way you can appoint a Major General or Brigadier General to be a National Security Advisor and issue directives to a Lieutenant General. Ideally, if you are going to appoint National Security Advisor or Defense Minister, try and appoint a full-fledged Nigerian Army General who was one time Chief of Defense Staff. Nobody clinched that particular position until when he was appointed, so everybody must comply. Two, a member in this floor wrote a letter of commendation to one of the service chiefs that he is doing good. I got the copy of the letter. I know the honorable member, but I know the time I will scandalize him to the extent that the whole world will look down on him. I will not mention his name, I will deal with him personally. I said, I am ready to give out my life if people in the Northeast can live in peace. Mr. Speaker, it's a betrayal to 359 members for a honorable member to write a commendation letter to a service chief commending him of doing good job while Nigerians are dying. Only 60
Well, all right. Right now, that was Ahmadu Jaha, and we have in the studio with us Jonathan Onoja, a security expert, to talk further about the rise in insecurity in Nigeria despite increasing yearly government allocation. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Hey, good morning. It's my pleasure.
All right. So first of all, can you give us a general assessment of insecurity in Nigeria? And, you know, once you're done with that, you can actually share your thoughts on the video we just watched.
Well, insecurity in Nigeria is a multidimensional issue, and rising from the case of banditry, Boko Haram in the days of kidnappings, Niger militancy, and all of that. So it has become a case that you cannot x-ray in one single term. To me, Nigerians are beginning to worry what exactly insecurity stands for. Is it for the ransom, or is it for the lives? So now at the point, it's no longer for the ransom. It is actually combined ransom and none for lives, because most times even ransoms are paid and then lives are still, being killed for no reasons. So we begin to understand that sometimes it is political. Of course, when a country like this, like in Nigeria, insecurity lasted for more than decades, it is no longer normal. It is becoming more political. And Nigerians are beginning to say that for them, insecurity does not just exist. What they see as insecurity is interest of political stakeholders, opinion leaders, and even the religious leaders. I think that is what they see insecurity, the selfish interest of political leaders, chieftains, and opinion leaders that has become the clashes of what we see as insecurity today. That is what Nigerians have come to believe.
Okay, so what's
But when you mention, excuse me, Usina, when you mention politics, politicization and all that, what do you exactly mean? Because some people would tell you that that is somehow escapist to blame politics on these things. Are there some pointers to tell us how this is politics?
Well, with the recent development, and then you have just listened to what the speaker just said, sorry, a House of Rep member, I'm coming to that actually. Just to draw a line to that, telling you that even among the 360 members in the House, just one single member is writing a letter of commendation when indeed the country is in deep mess in terms of insecurity. And also we have seen most times that the aloofness of Mr. President's appointees, even in the midst of threatening insecurity, their arrogancies and everything, the statement that comes from them, just because they want to feed their tummy, you can understand that lives have been given in exchange of political,
favors.
Of course, favors and positions. So even if the whole Nigerian is dead, Nigerians are dead and they just left to Aso Villa today, believe me that some persons will still come out and say, Your Excellency, you are doing well, just to satisfy their interests. So you see, when we had the case of the last killings, the PDP, the APC, and all of the kind of statements coming from them, even using innocent lives, innocent Nigerians as a means for campaign against the other political parties. And why the other political parties are equally saying, yes, the number is not much compared to what you used to have. So you imagine that the interest of political stakeholders. So you can even see that one party can equally influence another one, killings of Nigerians, just to you have reasons to to campaign against the other. So it is political, like we have seen today.
All right, now do you think we actually have enough, security personnel to, secure the country?
You see, globally, you have to check the forces of each country, one of the mighties, and you see what they have on ground in terms of the personnel. And most time, you equally check the kind of operations that they engage in. Nigeria have the personnel that is required, at least to a large extent, to mitigate these challenges. But you would draw me to go fully into the discussions of the House of Rep member.
Yes, please go ahead.
Like I said, financial management is one of the area in security sector to achieve what we call effectiveness and appropriate response to securing or to having a legitimate security for a citizen. Where there is no proper management or financial proper management of this, we'll have problems. Like in Nigeria today, If you check what we have had, our budgeting and all of that for the military, Nigeria still remains one of the highest in West Africa. I can tell you that authoritatively, that Nigerian budget put together, West African budgets put together, Nigeria stand one of the highest. Not even one of the highest. Nigeria have the highest, not even one of the highest.
But Mr. Onoja, what some people say, including even the honorable member we watched earlier, is that in spite of this military budget, is it commensurate with the result we are seeing?
No, not at all. And I'm coming to that. That Nigeria has one of the highest. But like he told Nigerians, it's a cash cow business. The truth is that we can have all of this. But one of the things that will hamper or not allow the military to achieve a desirable result is, number one, corruption. And when I talk about corruption, I always talked about the lack of maximization of the budget. And that is where the cases lies. Like he said, some persons are coming to just take their own and go. We are in crisis situations, for crying out loud. We don't need anybody to come and stay for 6 months, 7 months, 1 year, 2 years without result. When we have cases like this, what the case should be is deliver and stay. Fair, and there's a way out. That is the way that Nigerians are expecting His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari to have handled the situations, because we have a commander-in-chief seated in Abuja, and we have so many. Look at just yesterday what is happening in Plateau State. Look at recent days what is happening in Kaduna, Abuja, and no heads are not rolling. Nobody have been held accountable as to this is negligence on the part of this person or this and this. So it shows that there's a lacuna in the operations of the military, and one thing that is affecting the military deeply is corruption.
Okay. All right, we'll pause this discussion here, and Mr. Jonathan Onoja will be back in the next hour to give us more on insecurity challenges in Nigeria. Do stay around. A beautiful morning to you, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV. We're live in the Federal Capital Territory. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman.
It is a beautiful morning indeed, and welcome to the show. I am Abdulaziz. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, Abdulaziz.
Good morning, Nishana. How is it?
It's going well.
These days Nigeria is suffering and smiling, but thankfully, at least the fuel queues
have reduced drastically.
Significantly.
Yes.
So at least one relief.
The power supply has actually improved as well.
It has improved.
So thank God for that.
You know, we shouldn't always be complaining. So when there is improvement, we should also say it. Yeah. At least I fueled last night in a near empty filling station. Less than 5. I think I was. I met only one car, so immediately after that.
That's nice. Congratulations to you, by the way.
Thank you.
All right, now for the headlines in this hour. Former President Obasanjo urges Nigerians to be firm amidst insecurity challenges.
Abductors of Abuja monarch ask family members to sell his house to raise 20 million naira ransom.
Apple Mosque suspends chief imam over sermon.
Let's now dive into the news highlights.
Abductors of the traditional ruler of Bukbe community in Kwali Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory have directed family members of the monarch to sell his house in order to raise the 20 million naira ransom they're demanding. Daily Trust had reported how kidnappers invaded the palace of the monarch, His Royal Highness Alhaji Hassan Shamidazi, on Wednesday night. When Daily Trust visited the community on Sunday, a family member of the traditional ruler who preferred anonymity said the kidnappers have vowed not to release him until they get 20 million naira.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo says security challenges have overwhelmed the regime of President Muhammadu Buhari. He said this while reacting to recent attacks on the Abuja-Kaduna train, which left no fewer than 9 people dead and several others missing. Obasanjo said the development has shown that Nigerians are not safe whether in vehicles, train or aircraft. The former president was speaking at his Ota residence while playing host to a People's Democratic Party presidential aspirant, Dr. Ugochukwu Williams, and his team. The former president, who admitted that president government has been overwhelmed by security situation in the country, however, cautioned Nigerians not to allow themselves to be overwhelmed by the security challenge.
The Mosque Committee of Apple Legislative Quarters, Abuja, has suspended its chief imam, Sheikh Nuru Khalid, over a sermon he delivered on Friday. Sheikh Khalid, in a sermon, flayed the government over its failure to tame the escalating insecurity and killings in the country. In the sermon, the imam hinted at some measures that the electorate should devise if the authorities fail to protect their lives. In a statement, the chairman of the Mosque Committee, Senator Said Sadao, said the committee suspended the embattled imam over his sermon that it deemed to incite public outrage. The committee maintained that Sheikh Khalid's sermon negated the tenets of Islam. The committee has immediately appointed Malam Muhammad, who will deliver a Ramadan tafsir, while Malam Abdullahi will be leading Friday prayers. But speaking on Sunday, the Sheikh said he was unperturbed, adding that he learned about his suspension in the media. He vowed to continue speaking the truth and challenge those who perceived his sermon as inciting to show evidence.
Nigeria is facing a very serious challenge. Everything is not working well. People are dying. Our roads are not secure. Most of the parts of the country is not secure. And the government is always telling us what we don't understand, that they are doing their best. And we deserve more than that, their best. That's what I always say. Yes, you said you are doing your best, but we as citizens are saying that we deserve more than that, your best, because we want a secured Nigeria. And what you are now telling us that your concern is all about 2023 election. And what I advise the citizens to do is to send a message that yes, we are going to vote in 2023, but under condition that there must be security in Nigeria.
That's been it on the news highlights. We'll be back after this short break.
Police in Katsina State have arrested a notorious supplier of vehicles and informants to bandits. The suspect has been on the wanted list of security agencies, known as Ibrahim Abdul Rashid of the Musa local government area. He's accused of collecting over 2 million naira from Kamilu Buzaru, a terrorist kingpin, to purchase a vehicle for the terrorists. Abdullahi Yamadi reports.
Similarly, the police have also arrested 3 suspected informants of bandits hibernating in the forest around Sabwa, Dandume and Faskari axis.
On credible intelligence, Wad Nasiru Sadi, 20 years, Bala Hassan, 22, Aminu Abdurraouf, 20 years of Kabalawa village, Sabwa local government areas. Nemesis caught up with them when they conspired among themselves and invited some armed bandits hibernating in the forest to come and kidnap one Malam Rabiu of Kabalawa village.
In the same vein, the Katsina State Command of the Nigeria Police has paraded a syndicate of suspected thieves in possession of a vehicle loaded with iron rods, suspected to be stolen from a construction company in Katsina Metropolis.
We've succeeded in arresting some staff of this Triacta company that is responsible for this construction, and so many other suspects.
All 6 members of the syndicate who confessed to have committed the offense are staff of the construction company.
I'm working in Tractor. Actually, I'm involved for the victim of the lost of the iron. So that's why I'm involved with the case.
How did you do it?
Yeah, actually, we used to just take it in the night.
Of the truth, when those guys told me that they are going to get those iron, I told them that I'm not involved. I don't want trouble.
Also in Katsina State Police custody is one Hassan Suleiman alias Khalifa, a notorious fraudster who specialized in swapping ATM cards of unsuspecting people at ATM points in Katsina. In the course of investigation, a Honda Accord vehicle and 30 ATM cards were recovered from the suspect. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
To continue our conversation on security situation in the country, we still have in the studio Mr. Jonathan Onoja, a security expert and analyst. Thank you for staying with us, Mr. Onoja.
Thank you, Mr.
You've just watched this video of arrest of suspects, including an informant by the police in Katsina. Now, we hear some of these arrests once in a while and all that, but the impact, some people say, is still not that much. Or to what extent is this helping the fight against insecurity?
Well, kudos to the Nigerian police. At least they've done a bit of what we expect them to do. Unfortunately, we are too quick to react to it at this point. You know, it is all about intelligence gathering, and sometimes you have this intelligence, processing it becomes a problem. So I must say that we need more of this intelligence. However, parading these suspects is too early, and then even the act of parading this suspect, like I have said in previous interview, it is not welcomed. Most times, most of the people you paraded, the suspects in quote, become their life become in danger, you know, and it will not aid you or give you that desirable results of intelligence you need, because once I know that Mr. A is in this prison, we have had so many prison breaks, we don't know the reasons for it, because some persons are actually behind this act. And when these people are paraded, they already know the whereabouts, they already know the police station that they are detained. They attack the police station, take these people away, and I can tell you that your investigation will be cut short. So I will always advise the Nigerian police that parading the suspect shouldn't be. Most times it is, even when you parade this suspect, that they come out with different, statement that they are not part of it, and they cannot even give you that result you want again. So I will always say that while they are actually carrying out their duties on the ground, they should equally ensure that they have concrete evidence against the suspect before parading them.
All right, so what's your take on the security agencies revealing their plans before, acting on it?
To me, the security agents we have in Nigeria, our agencies have so far failed in terms of their operations. And then to reveal the operations, it is also high time, like I said, to rejig the heads of these agencies. Because in the earlier days, we talked about how to, also look at those service chiefs that are involved in this whole thing, because it falls back to their table. Even when they review the implementations, also still fall back to them. So I always say that we cannot have intelligence and give to a non-intelligent person. So we need actors who can come in and display whatever they know best to do as regards giving us results. So to me, reviewing the operations of the military, paramilitary, put together joint task force, we equally require that the head of the service chiefs also should be looked at of who should come in and who should go. Because some of them, I discovered that at the point of entry, they show capacity. But once they get into the office, they come relax, take some of the national cake, and then they find their way out. So I'm sorry to say that, like I said in my earlier statement, corruption is one of the problems we have. For the first time in our history, we had previous administrations saying that the things that those budgets or some of these things that they say they have been budgeted for, but even appropriation made and nothing was found on ground when he resumed office. I'm talking about the late Chief of Army Staff. He came in and said, "Come, this is what you people told me was on grant," but nothing of such. But there was budget for it. Till today, do we have the government prosecuting? Do we have the National Assembly coming up with statements?
So let me hold you there. Was it difficult to actually prove these security expenditures?
Well, it is the will. Mr. President, they need a strong political will to come up and say, this is what we want. Because unfortunately, the security systems today have been politicized. So, it is me and you. So it becomes very difficult for me to equally probe you when you are involved, and it becomes equally difficult for me to probe me when I am involved. So it is you rub my back, I rub your back. Otherwise, the security we know is supposed to be the army we know is supposed to be an independent body that fights for a just cause, unwanted together to fight for the city, for the nation. But we're not seeing it in that direction today. So I expect that Mr. President to take decisions as to whether these service chiefs should still remain or they should be shown their way out.
Now, you talked about corruption in security agencies. Now, some have actually said, is it possible for the government not to be fully aware of what is actually going on? Because some have actually said that the service chiefs are afraid of telling, political leaders the truth about the actual situation, so they're not removed from office.
I think that claim is false. I don't think so. They are not telling themselves truth for their selfish reasons. So we must get to the truth of the matter, that one service chief comes and tells somebody that, sir, this is what is on ground, and then you tell me that person is going to be removed. No, even when the person faulted, when the person is guilty, nothing will happen. Have you forgotten? I asked my Inspector General of Police to resume in Benue, but he was never in Benue. What happened to the Inspector General of Police? So let me just tell you, there's no deterrent as to show, if you do this, this is the consequences. No, we are in the same camp together. And that's why so many people begin to accuse His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, because he's not taking decisive actions on what to do when someone is found guilty. Nigerians were expecting that, come on, let every other, just like every other person, let the former Chief of Army Staff, Buratai, also be probed. Was there anything like that? No. So we should now start looking at it that it's not just about the service chiefs. It's about the will of the president to do the needful. Because it took almost a year. If you're talking about, please, this service chief has to go, they have overstayed, they have done this, they have done that. At just the tail end, he removed the, although we got results at the early stage of their entry, but today they are relaxed, nothing is happening. And then, like I talked about, the maximization of the security budget is one thing that we must look at. If that is not done, how do you checkmate the corruption, systemic corruption, political corruption ongoing in the military? You can't checkmate those things because you have, for example, 430-something billion allocated to only the Nigerian military. What is the appropriation for? Now, what is the expenditures they have put, the capital expenditures? And then you now check and do your plus and minus, you discover that the whole lot of money is going into private pockets that is not allocated for.
But Mr. Onaja, beyond this maximization of budget, some say the security forces are overwhelmed by the pockets of many crises happening from the southeast, northeast, northwest, and almost everywhere. The last time the Chief of Defense Staff was talking about almost all the states of the Federation. Don't you think that is because of this overwhelming situation, or how is it contributing to our compounding our problems?
I agreed that when you have a multi-dimensional issues leading to a particular case, you'll be overwhelmed. Agreed. But we have presence of all the formations in all the states. Are you in me? There is presence of DSS in the 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. We have the NIA, we have the police, we have all the things. So it's not like we have Abuja as the headquarters of all these formations, and for that reason, it is only Abuja that we have presence of the military. No, what they lack is proper or analyzing intelligence. Processing and analyzing intelligence is one of the problems we have. We have lost intelligence gathering. So what is the duty of the DSS? What is the duty of the NIA? What is the duty of the Defense Military Intelligence? When we have all of these formations, do we have any formations compared to Kaduna State? So where were there when all these things were happening? Sorry to digress a little, that even in the incident that happened last week, there were local intels coming from this people and said, come, we saw some persons in the large numbers on motorcycles. This intelligence were not processed. So it took them unaware that these people that they said, they talked about few days have just striked. So it is for them to meet up the responsibility in terms of intelligence gathering, processing this intelligence, analyzing those intelligence, and act on those intelligence. But when their case is like having an intelligence and giving it to a non-intelligent person. That is just the case they are facing.
Most people would actually say the problem of Nigeria is, implementation. They find it difficult to implement. But aside that, do you think, you talked about one of the problems, do you think rivalry among security agencies, has actually killed the spirit of, fighting a common enemy as well?
Well, everybody wants to take the glory. Everybody wants to take the glory. For instance, what we have the military fighting today shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been. They have mandates. What is the duty of the Nigerian police? So, what are the mandates of the Nigerian army? Are they supposed to be? Are they supposed to be in the internal security of the nation? The answer is no. We are not fighting war. But unfortunately, we find ourselves in the midst of war. That our homegrown terrorists have outweighed us, that we are not fighting. Those we said untrained militias are now combating our army headlong, and they're even some of these personnel are even pulling their uniforms in a train, or to just said we are not part of these people, to save their lives. People will say they are untrained. Combating people will say we spend money to train. So you can imagine the irony. And we are not saying that there's rivalry. I think the whole thing is who to take the glory, and not just by the glory, but because of the huge funds involved in going to the front burner. Being at the front burner, I'll be giving the highest. Are you in me? So when you check the budgeting of the Nigerian army in recent times, from the days of these insurgents, you discover that
is what is growing, is growing. And some other agents want to come up and say, oh, let's do this so that ours can equally grow. So there's no true spirit of fighting insurgents. There's no true spirit of fighting terrorism. What we have is a spirit of collecting. A spirit we have had enough in this country, where we have people in the theater field and said, our commander collected money. They almost shot him to death. Because of what? He has collected money, given the discretion of his boys. So he will just send his boys and go and kill them. Some of these commanders, some of these generals have to be probed. They have to be properly investigated. How their hands are cleaned off from this mess we find ourselves. Because it has become a business. And like I said, or like I will, let me better put, like I will follow, it becomes a cash cow business.
Mr. Onoja, you just made reference to the attack on the Abuja-Kaduna train service. And then these days, almost hardly a week passes without a story about an abduction in Kuje, in Kwali, all the suburbs of the FCT. How safe, or should I say unsafe, is Abuja?
Abuja is not safe. And that is one of the pain I have. That where we have a commander-in-chief seated, a general who would have deployed his war strategies as to how to direct this head of service chiefs with his experience to see how he can mitigate these challenges. Unfortunately, the chief is no longer acting. And it calls on Nigerians that this is a chief we have had about. This is a chief that we said he can hit the ground running. What has happened to the chief? So many Nigerians are worried. Is this the same chief we used to know? Or is not the same chief? So Abuja is not longer safe. How would you think Abuja is safe? Where Abuja would have been safe is having Kaduna safe first. For he who will preach to someone or who will deliver someone, sorry to go back to the Bible, where the thief said, if you will first deliver yourself first, and then you deliver me. So if you are not able to deliver all the neighboring states around you, look at Nasarawa, look at Kaduna, look at Niger, those states look at Plateau, those states that are closer to you, if you cannot have a clearance operations just to at least get rid of those boys far from your territory, then how do you think you are safe? Abuja is not safe. Under his watch, they came here and abducted and they strike at University of Abuja. Under his watch, Kwali was attacked. Under his watch, Barriera Council was attacked. Under his watch, FCT here has been attacked. So what else do you think that have not happened?
Okay, so do you think hiring mercenaries is a solution?
By this time, if not for pride, the ECOMOG soldiers should have been invited. By this time, when we are failing, when our security agents are failing, the ECOMOG soldiers should have been invited. But it will not come. You know why? It is political. It is political. That this fight continue. As long as it continues, the borrowing continues. And we keep borrowing to go our sorrowing. We keep borrowing to fund budgets of our military to ensure that they fight for a fight that will never come to an end, provided they are in service. So until we start dealing decisively with people who should be held accountable, we will not get result. The CBN came up and said, we found some millions in an account of one of the soldiers. How did this happen? Some persons have come to testify that they kidnapped the mother. When it was time for ransom to pay, it was unfortunate. The first ransom they paid, it was a soldier that collected it. So we have had people involved deeply into terrorism. We have had deeply. We have an individual who have gone around the camps of all these people and said, the military knows their whereabouts. So if we want to end this fight, why not we hit this camp? Must we wait till they come to hit us? Was there an opposition? Was there a contrary statement to when Gumi said, the military knows the camps? I am not the only one that knows the camps. We see him go to them, go to the field, discuss with them, and come back. But we even have people escorting him, military, paramilitary, police, soldiers, escorting to the bush to discuss with these people. Yet, we keep deceiving Nigerians. We don't know the whereabouts. By the time they hit in Kaduna, we run there. By the time they hit in Plateau, we run there. But what happened to the camps they took you to? That you know their whereabouts and you cannot hit them. Are we actually fighting terrorism? That's the question I leave to Nigerians today. Are we fighting terrorism? In economics, some call it Cobra effect. They try to say they want to solve the problem, but in an attempt to solve the problem, they worsen the problem. That is what I see the military doing in Nigeria.
That has been really engaging conversation with you, Mr. Onoja, this morning.
Thank you.
And just before I sign off, this issue that you just mentioned is something also that the Kaduna State Governor, Nasiru El-Rufai, who is a member of the ruling party, has said, that is, the camps are known. But then at the same time, the government gives itself a pass mark. Do you think it deserves this pass mark on security?
You know, that's a local adage from my place, that when a lizard falls from a tree and comes to the ground, it noses its head even when no one praises it. He said, I have tried. So even in failure, some persons are taking courage to say, we have done well. But I tell you the truth, they are deceiving themselves. And like I said from my opening statement, it is the arrogancy and the aloofness of Mr. President appointees that have put him in this mess. Because even in threatening insecurity situations, we see young people claiming to be aides and said His Excellency is doing well. When we say he's doing well, in what capacity, in what area is he doing well? If I have failed, I have failed. I take over the fame and I equally take responsibility for the shame. So we are not saying that he is not trying. But in areas of security, which is fundamental for any flourishing nation, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, they have failed. And we are saying if they must get it right, the time is still right to rejig the heads of the service chiefs to have a way forward. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Onoja, we're not ready to let you go just yet. Talking about the lead story on Daily Trust, there's a story here that says that NRC ignored warnings on planned attack of the Abuja-Kaduna Railway. And we also have the MD, admitting to have received the alert. What could have been done to divert this particular incident? And we're actually saying that, the service has been suspended and everything, and he's saying that the suspension is not a solution.
You see, the suspension of service is not a solution, like he said. The best solution for him would have been he's sacked or he's removed from office. That's one of the solutions for him. It's not about suspending service. It's about suspending him from office or dismissing him from office.
As a deterrent.
As a deterrent to others. And again, I must tell you that it is the lacuna in the operations and the mouth-watering promises of this government that has failed us. How does it work? Or how did it come to stay? When you are building a rail station, it's so unfortunate that we have a minister coming at this point to say he has requested for 3 billion naira for the installations of surveillance security around the tracks. What is this, for crying out loud? Shouldn't have been in the process of building these railways. Is it now you're coming? And Mr. President have not given any directive apart from the paper directives that has no influence or that have nothing to do with Nigerians. We must let go of this cultural display, visiting the scene of crime, visiting victims, and saying we are on top of the situation. How long would we be on top of the situation? Please go under the situation. Let head rose. Let the head of those people who are supposed to be responsible for putting those things in order rose. Until this thing happens, we will not get result. Number one, we are told that at every point of movement from one destination to another, there will be escort of helicopters. How often are these promises being kept? Nigerians are not questioning anything. The government has to be sued for the damage of these people. Government, and we don't have human rights activist lawyers now coming up to say anything again. It is in their pocket they come to speak. What happened to the lives that are lost? Family lost their lives in that train. What is the compensation of government to these people? What is it? So we are not talking about suspension of service per se. It should be suspension of personnel, sacking of the managing director of the National Railway Corporation, and asking the Minister of Transportation, at what point are you bringing this 3-point-something billion? Is it different from the approved budget for this railway construction? Can't we have people questioning these people? Must we continue in this direction? So I think it is just becoming a child's play. Nigerians are becoming to believe that the integrity we put in power is no longer the integrity we are seeing today.
Now, the tracks are actually being rebuilt now, but will Nigerians trust, the railway corporation to, travel by rail anymore?
The issue of trust have long ago gone. Nigeria have lost trust, for crying out loud. Do you have trust as a person if you might be sincere to yourself? Will you allow your son, your daughter to apply that truth? The answer is no. But because they have no choice. The road has already been constrained with so much of insurgency. The rail tracks, the rail station is already gone. Even down to the air, talking about the Kaduna International Airport was attacked. Where do we go to? Must everybody become a witch or a witchcraft and fly in the night? And even at that, you can still be shot. So at the case of trust, Nigerians have lost trust on this government. And not until this trust is regained, insecurity cannot be sustained. Insecurity will continue. Because until Nigerians begin to see genuine approach to cases and to issues holistically, then they can now say, yes. Nigerians have one of the best intelligence. You see those people you see at the clubhouse? You see those young boys you see around your streets in the morning taking something? You see those young women that goes to farm? You see those young men that drives around the city? The intelligence they have. Unfortunately, some of these people we call service thieves. So, sorry, not service thieves. I mean service chiefs. These people we call service chiefs don't have it. They are the real people. Not until you go to where the natives are concentrated, you have no intelligence.
Well, aren't the natives the informants?
The natives would have been the best informants, but because they lost interest and they lost trust on the real mindset of our security agencies, it's a reason they have retained themselves. Otherwise, it would have been see something, you say something. But in the case of you say something and you become a victim, then there is no trust.
But the security agencies often say that they are not witches as well, and that they won't and they can't be everywhere. They need this information from the public. And don't you think that it is also a civic responsibility to share this information, and not sharing would mean hindering the job of the security agencies?
Well, I see that it's supposed to be a power above body, where Nigerians share these informations with relevant agencies for them to act. But the question here is, when you give these informations, what is the response system here in Nigeria? What is the response system? Where we have police officers who take arms and give to robbers to go rob and return back. I mean, you are giving an information, an intelligence report to someone who is giving arms to robbers, criminals to go and rob and return. Are you not aware of the police officers who was involved in this? So to me, I don't see it as a case of the Nigerians are ready to share information. Nigerians are ready to share information. But the problem is, are these people ready to act in accordance to the law? This is the way I see it.
All right, now we'll take a quick breather, and when we come back, we'll continue the newspaper review with Mr. Onoja. To stick around.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back from that break. Now we're about to wrap up with Mr. Jonathan Onoja, a security expert on insecurity in Nigeria. Now, just to, ask you one last question. In light of, the Boko Haram situation and the increased banditry in the north in particular, what's the future of Nigeria in this?
I see that Nigerians, as it is, they have a solution halfway. The future depends largely on the changes that we see in our present day operations. Like so many Nigerians have said, they're no longer going to open up because of the situations, the threatening situations that they find themselves. I think in the adjoining days, if Nigeria begin to see clearance operations through spirit of security coming over to Nigerians, we will expect that Nigerians will begin to have this belief that the country is fighting a just cause. But then, the future, the negative aspect of it is that with the continued fight of this terrorism, the country Nigeria will not have value in the global index of economy. Economy will be dead, nothing will flourish. And then our borrowing strategies will grow from bad to worse. And then we will not have a country to return back in the days to come. So Nigerians, as it is, should be very, very sensitive on the continuous fight, because imagine the infrastructures that have been destroyed so far for over 10, 15 years now. It will take another 20, 30 years to put these things in order. And that shows that Nigeria as it is going to return back to no longer a case of independence. We are going to return back to how we are like a baby trying to learn how to crawl. So I believe that we should not get to that level where we cannot equally put our infrastructures in place, like our dead refineries. So if we have come to that level where we cannot resuscitate certain facilities that have been damaged, prisons, constructions, and all of these government facilities have been destroyed. If they start attacking ministries today, it will take them another 50 years to have a ministry. It will have another impact on the economy of the country. So I believe that the future will be determined with the present realities on ground.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Jonathan Onoja, for joining us on Daybreak today. We hope to have you, next time. All right, with that, we will be connecting virtually on the newspaper review with Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust newspaper, Suleiman Suleiman. Good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Good morning, Deshan, and thank for having me.
All right, let's start with the lead story on Daily Trust newspaper. We'd love to have your take on that, on how the Nigerian Railway Corporation ignored warnings on planned attack on Abuja-Kaduna train.
That's quite a serious one, because even Malam Nasir El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, he mentioned this as an issue when he went to the presidency and was speaking to the press afterwards, that they wrote to the Nigerian Railway Corporation at least twice, and that they ignored their warnings that they should stop plying the routes at night. But I think the more important question is whether where the warning should have come from. Whether the warning should have come from the Kaduna State government, or from the federal government, or from the security agencies. So maybe, for example, if the warning had, if it had been the military, or the DSS, or the police, or any of these security agencies that had, in fact, sent the warning to the Nigerian Railway Corporation, perhaps their behavior would have been different. But either way, since they had received the warning from the government of Kaduna State, they ought to have at least acted on it by contacting other security agencies in the country, to find out what they are on, what the situation is, what does that mean, and so on. And it's really quite unfortunate that it is after a tragedy like this that we're having to do a post-mortem of all these things, frankly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suleiman. Closely related to this is the statement by the ACF Afenifere following what the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, said on his visit to the presidential villa threatening that governors from the north will resort to hiring mercenaries to fight this insecurity if the government is not, if the federal government is not serious about it. Now, a lot of organizations, including the Ariwa Consultative Forum and Afenifere, is cautioning against the use of mercenaries in this fight. What's your own take? Do you think we have reached that level of helplessness, or what do you make of it?
First of all, we need to be very clear that the idea by the governor of Kaduna State that they are going to get any foreign mercenaries or anyone from anywhere in Nigeria to help, which people interpreted to mean mercenaries, but we need to get that very clear. This is entirely out of the frustration that the Kaduna State government and the governors of other states that are affected by this issue, Katsina, Sokoto, Zamfara, and so on, feel from or have been feeling for quite a while now over the almost inaction, one can say clearly, inaction by the federal government. So it's not like they are already planning to go and get mercenaries into the country also. He is warning that at some point, if the inaction of the federal government continues, if the silence of the federal government continues, then they will have no choice but to resort to the use of mercenaries, wherever they may come from. And why have not even thought of using mercenaries? Why has even the federal government itself not thought of that? Because it can and should. Because if it feels that its own soldiers cannot go into some places, or if it lacks the capacity or the manpower on the grounds, because soldiers are divided across many states in the country, then probably the federal government should also use mercenaries. But beyond this, I would say that when we have issues around security, maybe organizations like Afenifere and Pandev and ACF and all these ethnic-based organizations, they are probably not the best qualified platforms to be speaking about security issues, because in general, they tend to be divided. They tend to speak at opposite ends of the mouth. You can scarcely find any areas where Afenifere and ACF, for example, agree. You can scarcely find any areas where Ohaneze and ACF agree. So chances are that they will only worsen the politicization of security issues in the country. So probably these are not the best organizations to be speaking. But the real issue, the real concern, but that people should be talking about on this is not the threat of use of mercenaries, but the inaction of the federal government. That's where the pressure, RFI said that to pile more pressure on the federal government to act. And that's the direction that people should be talking about.
Now, okay.
Well, I wanted to say, away from security, Mr. Suleiman, the national chairman of the PRP, that is the People's Redemption Party, at the weekend, Alhaji Falalu Bello, expressed confidence that his party will form the next government. And this is coming just a day after the Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello flagged up his campaign presidential campaign in Abuja. Looking at the political scene ahead of 2023 election, what do you see as do you think there's space for some of these perhaps younger platforms and persons amidst the gladiators in the APC and PDP? What are the chances for them?
Well, I think their chances are certainly brighter now than they were in all the previous elections we have had since 1999. My reason is because of the changes that we have had in the new Electoral Act 2022. Because you now have roughly 150 to 180 days of campaigning. That's a long time for a party like PRP to mount an insurgency campaign in which it can communicate to Nigerians, and its candidates can also communicate to Nigerians, can reach out to Nigerians, can campaign, can crisscross the entire country, you know, and tell Nigerians this is how we are going to be different from the APC, you know. But if Falalu Bello and PRP really want to be taken seriously, I think what they need to do is not the kind of empty boast like political parties do that we are going to replace APC and so on, but to begin to speak to Nigerians now. They certainly have a chance, and the PRP is probably the oldest and most credible party in Nigeria, so they have somewhere to stand right now, you know. So is to tell Nigerians, for example, how they are going to fix this security situation, how they are going to do the things that Nigerians want done that the APC government are not doing. That's what people want to hear. Once they can say a lot of that in the economy, in the security situation, but also around issues of corruption, around issues of jobs and employment, and rising prices of food, rising prices of fuel, and so many issues that affect Nigerians on a daily basis. If they have answers to these questions and they have a credible candidate or a credible slate of candidates, even at the federal government, but not just at the federal government, but also at local elections, at the states, and so on, I think they stand a good chance, because there is long enough time for them to campaign, for them to engage with Nigerians and be heard.
Now, talking about more hardship on Nigerians, now on Nigerian News Direct, that's the lead story. There's a story of tariff hike where MultiChoice dares federal government and tribunals judgment, and also Senate. So instead of reducing the cost of, subscription, they've begun implementation of a 15% price hike on DSTV and GoTV subscriptions.
Well, I don't really know. The thing is, once you have hikes in prices in one part of the market, what happens is that it spirals into other prices. But I'm just wondering exactly what would have increased in prices for MultiChoice that they needed to also increase the prices of their tariffs, because we have had MTN and Airtel and all these service providers for GSM and data, they have had retained the same prices for like a decade, if not longer. Despite changes in everything else, they have not needed to increase their tariffs, in the way others do, because of the basic necessity of the services that they provide, but also because of the millions of people. So you don't need to make profit directly in terms of per unit price, but you make profit because of the sheer volume of the people that are using your service. DSTV and MultiChoice, they are in the same category. In fact, DSTV is even in a better category as a business, than MTN and Co, because it's a virtual monopoly in Nigeria. It monopolizes the market, the broadcast satellite broadcasting market almost entirely, because all other service providers are do not enjoy within Nigeria the kind of prestige or the kind of presence that DSTV enjoys among subscribers. So I don't think that the problem is even DSTV's. The problem is Nigerians and the federal governments for allowing a monopoly or a virtual monopoly in such a significant and crucial sector of the economy and society. Because communications also have to do with national security, has to do with so many issues that are in the Nigerian constitution, such as issue of representation, such as issue of voice to everyone in the country. You cannot allow a monopoly or any company to monopolize the market if you take your constitution seriously, because the constitution says that Nigerians should have access to communications of all kinds, and in a way that is representative, that is equal, and so on and so forth. These are serious issues that mean, in policy terms, that you cannot have a monopoly. So if there is anything that government should be answering the DSTV for now, is to be thinking of how to break DSTV's monopoly. That's where the solution lies. Because once the DSTV continues to enjoy this monopoly, that's what monopolies do. You know, they tell you stories, they dare you because they know that you don't have a choice. You don't have anyone capable of providing the same service that they do. So what the government needs to do is to break the monopoly of DSTV by inviting more players into the market that can offer the same services, including the sports that Nigerians love so much, which gives DSTV an edge over all other service providers.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Suleiman, Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust. We hope to have you another time on the program.
Thank you, and thank you for having me too.
Listeners, that's been newspaper review on the show this morning. Thank you very much for staying with us. We'll be back on the hour.
Good morning and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman.
It is a beautiful morning indeed in Abuja. Good morning and thanks for joining us. I am Abdulaziz Abdulaziz.
Now for the headlines on this hour, former President Obasanjo urges Nigerians to be firm against insecurity challenges.
Abductors of Abuja Monarch demands 20 million naira ransom from
Apple Mosque suspends chief imam over sermon.
Let's now dive into the news highlights.
Abductors of the traditional ruler of Bukbe community in Kwali Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory have directed family members of the monarch to sell his house in order to raise the 20 million naira ransom they're demanding. Daily Trust had reported how kidnappers invaded the palace of the monarch, His Royal Highness Alhaji Hassan Shamidazi, on Wednesday night. When Daily Trust visited the community on Sunday, a family member of the traditional ruler who preferred anonymity said the kidnappers had vowed not to release him until they get 20 million naira.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo says security challenges have overwhelmed the regime of President Muhammadu Buhari. He said this while reacting to recent attacks on the Kaduna-Abuja train services, which left no fewer than 9 people dead and many others abducted. Obasanjo said the development has shown that Nigerians are not safe whether in vehicles, train or aircraft. The former president spoke at his Ota residence while receiving a presidential aspirant of the People's Democratic Party, Dr. Ugochukwu Williams, and his team. The former president admitted that the president regime has been overwhelmed by the security situation in the country, but however cautions that Nigerians should not allow themselves to be overwhelmed by the security challenge.
The Mosque Committee of Apple Legislative Quarters Abuja has suspended its chief imam Sheikh Nuru Khalid over a sermon he delivered on Friday. Sheikh Khalid in the sermon flayed the government over its failure to tame the escalating insecurity and killings in the country. In the sermon, the imam hinted at some measures that the electorate should devise if authorities fail to protect their lives. In a statement, the chairman of the Mosque Committee, Senator Saidu Nsadao, said the committee suspended the embattled imam over his sermon that it deemed to incite public outrage. The committee maintained that Sheikh Khalid's sermon negated the tenets of Islam. The committee has immediately appointed Imam Muhammad, who will deliver Ramadan tafsir, while Malam Abdullahi will be leading Friday prayers. But speaking on Sunday, the Sheikh said he was unperturbed, adding that he learned about his suspension in the media. He also vowed to continue speaking the truth and challenge those who perceived his sermon as inciting to show evidence.
Nigeria is facing a very serious challenge. Everything is not working well. People are dying. Our roads are not secure. Most of the parts of the country is not secure. And the government is always telling us what we don't understand, that they are doing their best. And we deserve more than that, their best. That's what I always say. Yes, you said you are doing your best, but we as citizens are saying that we deserve more than that, your best, because we want a secured Nigeria. And what you are now telling us that your concern is all about 2023 election. And what I advise the citizens to do is to send a message that yes, we are going to vote in 2023, but under condition that there must be security in Nigeria.
Nigerians say ideology is lacking amongst politicians, raising concern over its absence in political parties. A cross-section of respondents who speak to Trust TV, Shafi'u Suleiman, blamed desperation to grab or retain power at all costs for the disappearance of such ideal in the political scene. The report.
According to Oxford Dictionary, ideology is a system of ideas and ideals, especially one which forms the basis of economic or political theory and policy. However, in Nigeria today, contrary to what transpired in the First, Second, and Third Republics, politicians have thrown ideology to the wind, jumping from one political party to another at the slightest provocation.
I want to take us back to way back in time, in the days of our forefathers, the likes of the Sultan of Sokoto, the likes of the late Nnamdi Azikiwe, the likes of Pa Awolowo and all. They had ideologies. Ideologies led them to fight for the freedom of Nigeria.
Because when you know that PDP is going to favor you in another way around, you jump to PDP. But if you know that APC is going to favor you in another way, you jump to APC. And it's not good.
These respondents say the political anomaly is largely responsible for policy somersaults, cross-carpeting, arbitrary political alliances due to desperation to grab leadership positions at all costs.
We don't play politics of ideology because we are so self-concerned about ourselves. In a Western nation, most of the politicians, they take over from where their predecessors stop.
Because of interests that are peculiar to either a section of the nation or a tribe or a religion or individual interests. These has eroded the ideologies.
For the first time they want to join the party, they will say, I would like to repair the road for you. The primary school will be this, the transport will be like this, especially in fuel in this country and under education.
As Nigeria moves closer to the 2023 elections, politicians have been engaging in alliances and adopting strategies to realize their ambitions, with some switching between political parties and groupings without recourse to ideological leanings and manifestos. A case of a presidential hopeful who could not pronounce his newly adopted party was trending in social media. Though Nigeria has experimented multi-party political party systems in its democratic journey, some say the two-party system adopted by the Ibrahim Babangida regime, a little to the left Social Democratic Party SDP and a little to the right National Republican Convention NRC, would have guaranteed political ideology ipso bibe after this time. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The 3 elections inches closer, political parties and politicians have kicked up activities in anticipation of winning at the polls. From political declaration to lobbying of constituents and leaders, interested parties have approached their party secretariat to obtain both its expression of interest and nomination forms. And with the passage of the Not Too Young to Run Act, the Electoral Act, among others, the forthcoming election is expected to witness the participation of more youth and women than any other previous election in Nigeria. However, due to exorbitant cost of nomination forms, these youth and women may be in for another bout of challenges. To discuss this topic further, God bless Otubere, the global president ready to lead Africa, joins us in the studio. Welcome to the Daybreak, Mr. Otubere.
Thank you so much for having me.
We also have Nana Jibrin, a youth aspirant who intends to run for president. She joined us from our Kano studio. Pleasure to have you, Nana, on the show. Nana will join us later, but we have Mr. Otubere now in the studio, and we start the conversation with him. Your organization, has the vision of promoting youth participation in politics. But one major problem that a lot of people say is the issue of war chests. How is that a problem, a challenge for the young people aspiring to participate in the political process?
The issue of funding to run elections anywhere in the world is not unique to Nigeria. It's a problem that we are beginning to analyze and research in democracies. But ours is of a different kind, because when you look at democracies, maybe where we've copied it and how it is done elsewhere, is that the people come together, fund the candidate. But ours is that the candidates are literally the ones doing most of the funding of the process. And
the candidate fund the people.
Yes. So you see how bad that is, that political party members and people in the society are not donating 50 naira, 100 naira, 1,000, 2,000 to a candidate's campaign, but rather you see people waiting for politicians to come and give them money. So it is tough, especially when you have a generation that don't have the kind of monies that the previous generation has access to. A lot of us are just using a lot of inspiration and the capacity to dream to say we want to represent our people. A lot of the people we're competing against are people who have had access to maybe public funds or some sort of funding, you know. So it's a difficult one for our generation, and of course, we are continuing to see what strategies we can create to solve those problems, but they've not been easy.
Okay, so would you say one of the reasons why people aren't coming together to, you know, help fund a candidate is because they don't believe in that particular person? Because there's a report that a youth group came together and purchased PDP presidential nomination form for Peter Obi.
Yes, that is true. Young people, you see, that's why I'm saying it is changing. How fast is the conversation? We've seen in the news lately that the young people are purchasing forms for candidates, or rather for aspirants, that's the word. One of the things we wanted to do as part of the electoral reforms bill that was just signed by the president was to limit the cost of nomination form in the two major parties and all other parties. It shouldn't be more than 10 million. In fact, we were going for 5 million, right? But the parties kicked against it for whatever reason. But the plausible reason they said was, we use that as a filtering process, right? So that you don't have 100 people. I mean, it's not a, because if it's democracy, people should be able to participate.
Exactly,
right?
I was going to say
yes,
that.
Yes, because it's not, that's why I said it's not a plausible argument. So at the end of the day, when the bill eventually was touched and reworked, and then we saw that, you know, the parties could literally determine the cost of their own nomination forms, but it is not, and it's not ended yet. That advocacy has not ended. It's an act right now. It can be amended, because if we really want to solve the problem of money politics, it has to start from how things like this are done. How do you even say that a young man like me, maybe in his 37, 35, or 38, and we haven't had that access to the monies that most people have? How do I get the PDP nomination form at 40 million?
Yeah, I'm talking of the cost of nomination forms. As you rightly said, the PDP, which has begun among the major parties, it is the only one that has begun selling forms. And even for governorship, it's 20 million.
Yes.
And other positions is, you know, very costly as well. And then the APC, you know, just concluded it is a national convention, and we saw the forms going for 5 million, 10 million, 20 million for the chairmanship. Don't you think these are like barriers maybe set to, to exclude especially the young people?
I mean, absolutely it is. It is. But when you ask them, they'll tell you no, but it is. It's clear for everybody to see what the PDP and what the APC is doing. You are excluding young people. Because if I want to run for the chairmanship, if I were to belong to the APC, and I'm thinking, how do I get 20 million to buy a form? And I also understand that. I mean, let's give some credit. I don't know what the APC would do in terms of all of their offices. I know right now we're talking about the presidency, right? But I know that part of the communications we've seen is that the PDP has fairly reasonable rates when it comes to House of Assembly, House of Reps forms, and all of that. I think with about 1.5 million right now, you can get your forms for the reps. I mean, 500 is an expression, and then I think 1 million for. So it is still at that level. There is some level of progress that have been made, and I think it is important that we see what the APC will do when it comes to their own, those are. But now I know this conversation is centered around the presidency, but for all other offices, I think some of the parties, especially, the one we've seen, PDP is doing pretty well on that, and we're waiting for what the other parties will do, especially the APC, which is another big party, and I'm hoping that they would consider young people in their plans and ensure that they give a level playing field to more young people. But if the conversation is centered around only the presidency, both of them, I'm giving them knocks.
All right. So right about now, we also have Nana Jibrin, a youth aspirant who intends to run for president, joining us all the way from Kano. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak, Nana.
Good morning, and thank you for bringing me.
The Not Too Young to Run, Act. Do you think this is actually the best time, considering all the challenges facing Nigeria, for the youths to come out and vie for elections?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for bringing me on the show.
Can you hear me?
Some of your questions because I can hear Yes, I can hear you now. Can you kindly repeat the question?
Yes, what I said was, despite the Not Too Young to Run Act, do you think, considering every challenge, everything going on in Nigeria and the challenges, facing Nigerians, this is the right time for the youths to actually vie for elections or elective positions?
Yes, this is the right time for youths to come out. Because we have been experiencing a lot of things in Nigeria, and they have been saying that there's a bill for that, and I feel that this is the right time for youths to come out and join politics. It's even one of the reasons why I decided to join the race, because we cannot just sit down and we don't really know what is happening to our country. For me, as far as I'm concerned, Nigeria is the only place that we have, and if the same people will continue ruling us, then when is the right time for us to join politics? I think 2023 is the right time for every citizen, especially the youth, to come out and join politics and be part of the political process in Nigeria.
Okay.
Nana, you are both a young person and a woman. And we know we have Mr. Otubere here in the studio discussing the issue of the challenges before youth. And of course, the women in politics are also faced with a number of challenges and uphill tasks. How are you going to surmount these two dual hindrances, so to say, in terms of fulfilling your own aspiration to contest for the presidency?
Hello, I feel that for so many years we've been talking about this affirmative action for women, but up till now we have not gotten to that stage. And for example, the recent issue that happened in the National Assembly, that women are agitating for more seats, which was denied by the National Assembly. But I was very, very impressed the way women stood for their right. You could see them every day at the gate of the National Assembly trying to stand for their rights, and also the youths. If eventually I become the president of Nigeria, there is no any country that can succeed having one sector or maybe one gender in politics. There should be equal participation in the affairs of the state or the nation, so that we can have a developed nation. So if I end up being the president of Nigeria, sure, I will include women and youths in my cabinets for continuity and progress. And I'm very optimistic that women and youth can do very well when appointed or when elected into offices.
Let's come back to Otubere in the studio. Mr. Otubere, now the PDP NEC approved a 50% reduction in nomination fees for youths aged 25 to 30 years of various elective positions. Is that a way forward? Is that a solution?
It is one of the solutions. There is no one solution that solves every problem. But it's a good one because what the party is doing is to literally say we're listening to young people, and this is what we're doing. I think for women, I think it's actually free.
50% is
Is
not
it
for free. It's
50%
discounted as
for
well.
women?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think there was a particular conversation where I saw that either the expression of interest is free.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, expression of interest is free, and then there's a 50% reduction in the
For
form
nomination.
itself, for nomination. So what that does is literally saying we are listening and we want, there are a lot of us who believe that anybody who thinks that a woman needs to be helped should rethink who they think a woman is. A woman is a powerful gender that sometimes can outperform or outdo the male gender, right? Sometimes when you see how a woman can multitask, taking care of a child, making food, and we can do that as men. We're like straight. If our mind is here, this is where we are. But a woman is capable of doing all of these things. Now, when women can understand that power, I believe that if you see the response from what women did with the rejection of the bills at first, now you see there's a reconsideration of those bills simply because they did not take no for an answer. So I am just simply saying to the women of the world, keep pushing. Keep making demands, keep asking questions. And there are a lot of us who are out here who believe that there is nothing that we are able to do that a woman cannot do. Therefore, women should be given all the necessary support, and also women should organize and not agonize. There is no, like they will tell us, power is not given a la carte. Opportunities are not given to you sometimes freely, or most times freely. You've got to work for it. So I enjoin more women to continue to push and make their voices heard. And to every political party that is making adjustment, well done.
I'm back to you, Nana. The political space is male-dominated, especially the gladiators in the major parties. I don't know what platform are you running under, but do you see yourself having space, especially in some of these major parties?
Hello, I think I'm going to make my decision very soon on that. And why not? I am very determined, vibrant, and bold, and I feel that there is no any reason why I should not have a space in any existing or powerful parties, the way we do call them, the APC, the PDP, and the rest. I only need a few days to decide on which party I would like to vie for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Sure, I will. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Otobere, some have actually complained that, you spend too much money, trying to contest for elections. Like, at the just concluded, convention, there was an aspirant that actually talked about how he spent 300 million naira for campaigns, and some have actually said that the a large amount of money used for contesting is the reason why when leaders actually go into office, there's a lot of corruption and they steal so much money. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes. It's a no-brainer, and we've said this before. We're working on a theory called the dissipation of energy syndrome. So a young man is visionary about the country. He wants to solve problems. He wants to give back. He wants to take the country to another level. And he says, okay, well, I cannot do this if I don't get into politics where I can make some of these decisions. So the young man says, okay, I'm going to run for office. First, he has, let's say, 20 million in his account. Ordinarily, in another climb, he probably will spend 5 million of his own money, because the law also guides how you spend your money, and it is closely monitored. And then the law also says that you need the people to make those contributions. So what it means is that even if that guy were to lose, he's not spending let's say 18 million of his money, and then he's going to go broke at the end of it all. So look at that scenario. But come back here. Someone was just trying to run for the chairmanship of a party. And we're hearing now, like you've rightly reported, 300 million. Now, that is the one that is reported, right? So when people spend their monies like this and they get into office, of course, and we know that they have access to public fund. So at the end of the day, what has happened is that it has become a business. Investment, that's what it is now. So if I do 300 million, I'm sorry, sir, if I do 300 million, I want to get maybe 100% profit. So when I get into office, my first task is to recoup my 300 million back. Because people borrow monies now from banks to run for office. So, and that is a very, very dangerous trend, that if we do not solve it as a people, our politics will never be better.
What about most of them, you know, having godfathers who pay for these things, and these godfathers end up dictating the tune?
That is also one of the problems, because at the end of the day, he who pays the piper
dictates the tune.
Takes the tune. So,
your statement on all this money in politics somehow touch on the question I wanted to ask you. How are the young people going to differ in terms of monetization of our political process to ensure that you turn the tide instead of going the way of the elites or the big men who have already are used to this monetization of almost the entire process?
So there are few solutions to this. It's going to be difficult, but you need to get the democratic experience back to the people. In 1999, when we came back to democracy, what the people who started, what they would have done or what they should have done is to hand over the process to the people again. In the old days, parties had members. Members had cards. People paid dues, right? I know people still pay dues to political parties today, but is that the main source of political parties' income? No. So the idea, therefore, is that we must ensure that as a younger generation, if a candidate is running, even if we can't do it all at once, a certain percentage of that candidate's funding must come from the public, right? So before you are even cleared to be a candidate, right, we must see a structure of how you plan to raise your funding. We must see that the populace are donating to your campaign. At the end of the day, let us look at it. It is very simple. The reason people are hell-bent on stealing when they get into public office in Nigeria is simply because the process that gets them into office is too expensive. We need to get our people to start donating. And in that way, you know that they have a say. So this is what politicians say. Well, when I came to you, I gave you money. For you to come out to rally, I gave you money. For me to come and do consultation, I gave you money. For me to drive through your street, I paid, right? So I don't owe you an explanation, really. Because let's be factual. Let's be honest. If somebody had to borrow, there are people now running. I have a friend who is running for House of Assembly in Delta, and I know how much he spent. For now, he's planning to say, okay, if they use the delegate system where delegates would have to be the one to decide who becomes the candidate, he's budgeting millions. Look, I'm talking about people who now, to become a delegate is the next big thing in our political space, in any of the parties. Because a delegate is now thinking, he's going to collect from this person, collect from this person, collect from this person. It is unheard of. So we need to get the party structure. We need to get the funding mechanism back to the people. And how you get it back to the people is letting INEC thank God we've now had the new Electoral Act, which has empowered INEC to be a bit more stronger, right? To say, look, a political party must show us how they intend to fund. Where is your funding coming from? How much do you have? How much is this candidate going to get? How much is coming from the public? Okay, you cannot donate, 10 million to a candidate. We need to start having super PACs, just like we have abroad, so that when people get into office, they know that the people have a stake in the entire process. So you don't get into office and you say, well, your money was not part of my election, because that is what you hear from a lot of politicians after they win.
Okay, now let's go back to Nana. Now, Nana, what party are you contesting under? And do you think the political parties or even Nigeria is ready for a female president?
I haven't made up my mind on the party that I'm going to contest under, and I'll make that known very soon. And I don't think gender has anything to do with being a president or not, because if you check other countries, there are so many women that are president and they are doing pretty well. And since the situation has been like that, I think Nigerians should elect a woman for the first time in Nigeria, and God willing, maybe the situation in Nigeria will improve better than when men have been ruling us for a very long time now. And I'm so happy that 2022, so many women are trying to come out, maybe in group or individual, trying to stand on their feet and say this is a time that we need more women in the political activities, and also we need more youths in the political activities in Nigeria. And you can see what and the things going on in Nigeria, the situation, the insecurity, and so many things. And we cannot just sit on the fence and be watching. This is the time that I am calling on everybody to join politics. And I'm very optimistic that Nigeria won't feel anything having a woman as their president come 2023. And for me, it is a good move.
Even if Nigerians or Nigeria is not ready for a woman yet, women should actually come out, and in time, they will learn to accept the fact that, probably this particular year, it's time for a woman to lead the country.
Dasha, let me cut you here. I think Nigerians are ready for women to come out and participate in politics, because on my page alone, I have seen so many men saying that if the men cannot do, then they should give a space for women to try their best. So if they are ready, even though they are not ready, I know that we'll get certain numbers of Nigerians who are ready for women to come out, and who are ready to see a woman president, and also see if it's possible for Nigeria to change for better, because we don't have anywhere to go. For me, I don't have anywhere. Nigeria is where I belong and is where I want to live the rest of my life.
Okay, so sorry to cut you short. How has the support from other women
vying for the office of the president?
Push, or you're vying for presidency? How has the support been so far?
I would say 70% for now.
Okay, all right, which is fair.
Nana, you have heard Mr. Otubre here, who has lamented a lot about the place of money, how funding is a challenge for young aspirants like yourself. How are you going to surmount this hurdle, or how much of a challenge do you see funding in your own campaign?
I know that there will always be challenges when it comes to funding, but we have a structure and we're really working on that template. We have a plan, and I'm optimistic that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how the challenges are, we'll get through. Because I have teams that are working on that.
nomination forms and also funding for the youths, considering that, you know, a large percentage of the youths are unemployed in Nigeria today, and even those who are, you know, either they have their salaries cut short and everything, and there's been a lot of clamor for the youths to become members of a political party. Now, when these particular youths decide to, you know, want to, you know, vie for positions, and then, you know, for example, you said nomination form is 40 million naira, you know, do you think this is the older ones, because there's actually been this drag between the older ones and the younger ones as well. Do you think this is, you know, these older ones, you know, trying to frustrate the efforts of the youths?
I don't want to get into that battle because one of the things we have come to realize is that we're not fighting the generation ahead of us. We're not trying to say we're fighting them. What we're simply saying is that we can be better. And if you guys have not been able to get us to that better, we don't want to follow in that light. We are offering an alternative. Are there actions that look like they are deliberately trying to stifle us? Yes, of course, because I mean, when you go back in time and you figure out that the Gowons, the Obasanjos, the Aguiyi season, a lot of them who left this country, and some of them are still here till today, started at 28, 29.
Very young.
And then you created a constitution and initially said for you to run for president, you had to be 40. That was a deliberate attempt to kill your own youth. It's a shame. It took us how many years for us to organize to bring that thing down to 35? What we wanted was 30. But at the end of the day, what we got was just 35. Do you know why? Because that generation don't trust the quality of citizens that they've raised. For you to say at 30, do you know what 30 years is? 30 years is 3 decades on earth. Now, at 30, in a society that works, you should have done nursery, primary, secondary, nursery, primary, secondary, and university. You should be rounding off your university education around, say, 20-something. You should have done maybe a master's, right? You should have been. You should have had some work experience. You should have been exposed. If you're going into the force, you should be in the military already. You know, that's what 30 years can give you. But if a people can look into can sit down, look and have a conversation and say, no, we don't think our 30-year-olds are ripe enough to be a president of this country. It should tell you something about the older generation. They don't trust themselves. They raised a generation that they cannot even trust. So what is happening is, whilst we have changed that narrative from we're not combatant, we're not fighting them, what we're simply doing is saying, your generation, this is all you have offered us.
Mr. Otuber, there is the saying, and I think quite a number of key political actors have said that the youth should not wait to be dashed the opportunities. How ready are the young people to push for a space on the table? I say this because Dashen had earlier mentioned that some young people came together to buy form for somebody who is not a young person. So how ready are the young to really take their owns up there?
We are ready to lead Africa. We are ready to lead Nigeria, and we will do it. So let me explain what is happening. Our generation is that generation that is upwardly mobile, we're digital, we're smart, we're pragmatic. We understand data, we understand how things work. At this moment, I'm not going to sound pessimistic, but in 2023, a 35-year-old may not be able to win Nigeria's presidency because we don't have the data on our side yet. We have the numbers, but the data is not on our side yet. The numbers for everybody, all right? But the critical voting data and the direction of how you manage that data into a cohesive unit, it's not on our side yet. And who is our 35-year-old or who is our 38-year-old or who is our 40-year-old? We are still working on that. But what we are doing, and I think this is what a lot of young people must take faith in, is that we are backing our aspiration with the necessary groundwork. And the necessary groundwork is organizing to get the Not Too Young to Run bill passed. Also, let me say this. The Not Too Young to Run bill also says that the national youth leader of any political party must be between the ages of 18 and 35. So a lot of wins that people don't talk about, it's not just the reduction of the age to run for governor or president. It's that, unlike before where you have 50-something-year-old people saying they are the youth leader of a political, it can't happen now. We'll take you to court, we will win, right? So let's hang that. Part of how we are ready is that we are organizing and using the framework that is legal, non-violently, to begin to set the pace. So we've gotten the Not Too Young to Run bill done in 2018, signed in 2018 and active in became active now it's active. Now, we've organized again, we've gotten the electoral reforms bill done, of course, in partnership even with the older generation. Now, that is done. What it means is that election results are no longer going to be rising like Gary when you put it in water. It means that if I vote at if I vote at Trust TV and my polling unit says 200 vote to TTT or 300 vote to YYY, it means that when I get to my house in maybe just the next street, I'm not going to see 2,000 for TTT. I'm not going to see 1 million for YYY because of electronic transmission of results. Also, INEC is not going to come back and say, oh, no, I don't have the monies I need, because 1 year into election, INEC should get the monies that they need. It means that INEC is a bit, so that is how you know a generation that is ready to lead. What we are doing is that we are working, not just talking, but we are working the talk by using what is available within the system to engage the system. So by 2027, this is what we would have done. By 2023, the goal is to get a lot of houses of assembly seats across the country. You put in a lot of young people. What that tells you is that the guy who is going to run for president needs people in the houses of assembly to drive the vision. The goal is not to look for a messiah. That's not our generation. Our generation is not looking for a messiah. Our generation is looking for messiahs, because we need them in Kano, we need them in Oyo, we need them in Zamfara, we need them in Cross River, we need them in Edo, we need them in Abuja, we need them in Kogi, we need them in Benue. That is what our generation wants to do. We're not looking for a Buhari or a Jonathan, or no, because at the end of the day, one man may provide the vision, but you need soldiers who believe in that vision and people who are going to independently lead other states, ground top. That's the strategy. So we are ready. The truth is that the people who have bought forms for Peter Obi, I don't know what is the motivation, but that is, if you say young people did that, is maybe they looked at the entire framework and said, maybe Peter Obi is not as old as the other people, so he looks young to them. So, but we have a strategy that we're following, how do you say it? Is it methodically? Yeah, and I just want to tell Nigerian youth, don't be in a hurry. 2023 is just here. Let's go for the low-hanging fruit. There are things we can control. They are the ones we cannot control. For now, give it to the guys who are still running the place. We can use our numbers to negotiate for certain things, but our eyes on the goal. 2027 or 2031.
Okay. All right, let's go back to Nana. Nana, how do you intend to drive your candidature, considering that you're not as popular as other people vying for president, like Atiku Abubakar and the rest?
We need to do a lot of advocacy gatherings, bringing youths together and women together in different states, so many activities, training and the rest of it, because we need people to know that we are coming out to contest, and people need to know us. Like you rightly say, many people don't know me. Even my name doesn't sound like, for example, the name doesn't sound in the ears of anybody that hears my name, Nana Jibrin. Nana Jibrin is just every normal Nigeria on the streets. But I feel that this is a time that we need to make a change. We need to come together and to let people understand that it has been for years now that people prefer to see those people that their names have always been there. But I feel that we'll do a lot of gathering, campaigns, advocacy, you know, and so many, I don't know, so many activities will be done. So many activities will be done in each state. I have a group of people organizing women and youths that we have to go and address them and tell them that this is our vision, our mission, and our objectives while we're coming out. With time, you get to see our activities and you get to know what we are going to do to bring people to accept us and also join in the movement. Though I know it's not going to
a lot
be
of
easy, it's going to be
young
challenging.
people like
I
yourself
know
who
Nigerians-
aspired for high positions say that they get maybe sometimes looked down upon by some people. Last week on the show, we had some young person who aspired for APC national chairmanship, and you know, he relived some of this experience. Are people? How are the reactions? Are people maybe taking you as somebody that is too ambitious or unserious, or trying to ridicule this your very patriotic move to aspire for the presidency?
It's a normal thing to see people ridicule you, to see people that don't really believe in what you're doing because they know you don't have that funds to participate in the highest position. But the most important thing is for you to be determined, to be strong. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I know that some people are just thinking maybe I'm joking. But the truth of the matter is that I am not joking. I am determined. And if there is anything that I have to do to change the mindset of people, I would definitely do that. And even you as an individual have to be serious, have to be determined. It's not all about money. People should know that Nigeria comes first. And the reason why things are not working is because we believe in money. We believe in money politics, and people think that, okay, because you don't have money, or because you're not from a wealthy family, or because you don't have godfathers, or because you're too young to be in that position, so you cannot be there. But let me tell you, I am determined, I am bold, and I'm going to take this this election to a standard that people do not expect. The only thing that I'm begging from Nigerians is just for them to give me all the support that I need. Definitely, we don't have that fund, but it's a good thing that somebody is coming to say, I want to contest for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That will also encourage youths and women to join politics. If we cannot make it in 2023, we are looking on to 2027, but we must start that movement now. And if really Nigeria are willing to support us, their 100 naira will go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nana, for joining us on Daybreak today. Congratulations to you, and we wish you all the best, you know, in your future endeavors as well.
Thank you, Dashen. I truly appreciate you giving me the time to be here. Thank you.
And we also have Mr. God Bless Otubure, Global President, ready to lead Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And with that, we've come to the end of A Daybreak on Trust TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same station. I'm Dashen Husseina Usman.
See you next time. I am Abdulaziz Abdulaziz. Good morning.